Hello. I think that's me. I think.
You like being greeted that way, do you?
I do now. Yeah.
It should be in your contract that's always.
I think I might see if we can sort it out. See if I can get it as my phone greeting.
All right, I'm gonna be the fangirl and ask a question straight off.
Okay.
What happened to the video diaries? They haven't been on the last 2 DVDs. Did you break the video camera or lose it again?
They, accidentally on purpose. Do you know what? The behind-the-scenes team, I guess, must have got so sick of watching the stuff we gave them because they had to trawl through so much rubbish before they came up with the stuff they actually showed. That we haven't seen them since. They've gone for the hills. So that's why there hasn't been any video diaries. They started off giving us these cameras and saying film stuff, and I had no intention of filming anything sensible on there. So I rolled around on train station floors and mouthed words to 80s pop ballads, and they'd had enough. They were gone. There you go.
Do you think being on social media now on Twitter, do you think that's taking kind of that place? Because now you get all sorts of tweets.
Yes, I get some very bizarre tweets from people, which I take as flattery with a slight question mark. But I think it's been nice to sort of just kind of keeping people up to date with various things that are going on. I try not to go overboard with it because you learn very quickly that people very much want a lot of you from it, and they're constantly trying to reach out and stuff. And I think if you can try and find a balance with it, that's what I'm aiming for. Is that balance of sort of not alienating myself from people whilst not giving them letting them know what underwear I'm wearing or something, which I've been asked.
Twitter, I'm not surprised.
Interesting, the relationship this past season 3 between Merlin and Arthur. I asked Colin about this. There's actually there was a balance for him, but actually for also Arthur too. There's moments that it's almost a comedic theme, going back and forth, and then some dramatic stuff and then anger. What was it like for you to play something?
Well, I mean, you've hinted on something that the thing that got me into acting. One of the elements of it is the variety that it offers, and this show, I suppose a huge challenge of it is we're in season 4 now that we're filming, and you've got to keep that kind of motivation to play the same character. When you're doing into it 4 years that we are now. Did that sentence make sense? When you're into your 4th year, it's very much about keeping it fresh for yourself. And that's an example of the variety that's offered within that relationship. And it's also the case within the character. One minute you're doing comedy scenes where you're taking the mick out of each other and you're having a laugh, and then the next you'll be doing a very heavily dramatic scene, and you'll have to completely turn around what you're doing, and then you might be doing some action stuff and some romantic things, and there's all sorts of stuff in there. So that's what really appeals to me with regards to keeping the motivation to play the part alive. Actually, is that variety. A long-winded way of saying variety is the spice of life.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
So how's it been having all the nights of the Roundtable?
It's been brilliant. I've been over the moon about that because I keep saying that I can now turn to my nights and say something, and I don't get a reply back in French, which I don't understand. My French still is pretty terrible. So it's been fantastic. It's been great for the atmosphere on set. It was always pretty good, but now there's just a lot more kind of male banter on set, which is something I've always been involved with in my own social groups as I've grown up. So it's great to have that at work, so to speak. With regards to the show, I think it adds a great element to it. I think the fans are really going to respond to the different characters that are in the show now. And, so yeah, it's one of the reasons why I'm very excited about season 4.
I was just going to talk about Arthur's evolution in the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
How would you describe this change in the last couple of years?
Well, Arthur's journey from start to end is kind of, I suppose, got to be the most gradual. We start off with him in season 1 where he's an idiot and nobody likes him, and we end up with him being this heroic king of legend that everyone's familiar with. When you say King Arthur, everyone has in their mind this, this fantastic leader and king of cavalry, and that's where we're going to. And so for Arthur, it's very much about that progression of getting there. And season 4 is now really kicking into gear with seeing what he will be.
I think too what's been neat is the past season you've done a lot of Arthurian like quests, and I think that's been taking us, moving them up a couple notches.
Yeah, they've been fun to do. They've been fun to do. When we get out into the countryside and they get me, they tell some men to chase me through a wood. I tend to enjoy that part of it, hugely. So there's more of that this year. And of course they've just been pushing the boundaries with it each year, and that's certainly the case this year as well.
I asked this of Colin, but just curious what your favorite part of the legend that you haven't covered would be.
I think my favourite part of the legends perhaps narcissistically because he's my character, but they're all going to happen when our show finishes, because we're there, before they were famous kind of deal. And when our show finishes, Arthur's story begins, and that's when all my favourite parts of the legend come. Because I'm hugely keen on finding out as much as I can about King Arthur and the stuff that I've learned whilst doing this job. It's been fascinating. I've really enjoyed learning about the various legends, and I don't think we'll get the opportunity to explore them on this show. So, but that would be that's the bits that if I could, I would have liked to have explored those.
Yeah, it was a huge hit out of the gate in Europe. In the UK, but here we have on NBC, and then they moved over to Sci-Fi when it took off. So it's interesting to see how this gradual build-up of this phenomenon. Two different sides of it. And one way it was a hit, and one way it had been built.
It's quite difficult to quantify what that means, really. We're stuck on set, and I certainly am. I'm there all the time, so I don't really. The only time I see it is when we're in the... That is impressive, by the way, that we're not looking at the we'll be out filming in the castle in France, and now we get tons of people turn up to watch, and you suddenly realise that there's, that there's an appeal for the show, which you didn't see before, because you're in a studio in, rainy Wales, or, in a forest in England somewhere, which nobody knew where you were, and, you just got on with it. You find yourself in a more public forum as we are now, and you see this response that you get, and you're like, wow, I didn't realise this was what it was, what it was doing for the fans out there. So it's great to see a piece of that response, and it's kind of a nice little bonus to doing the job.
Have you had a chance to walk around?
I haven't yet. I really want to. I really want to see what's going on out there. But it's right up my street there.
Are you going to try and do it with a mask so you don't have to be worried?
I can't see myself being that pestered, really. I think I'll be able to sort of, unless I'm being chased by a dragon, I don't think people will make the connection. It's not strolling down the street with chainmail tends to get me through places quite easily, without being spotted. So
it could be a dragon down there.
I dare say it. I dare say it'll be someone who turns up with a.
Actually, I saw one out on the street yesterday. Now that I think about it.
Right. Okay. I should look out for him then, and make sure I take some form of sword.
You said that you had read up a bunch on the legend while doing this role, and I just wondered, is there really a lot written about Arthur in his younger years?
The majority of it comes in the Once and Future King, which the Sword and the Stone, effectively, is the story that you hear about Arthur, the years before he becomes king. So that the majority is the idea of him being a sort of a squire to an adoptive family. Merlin turns up, teaches him some stuff, and tells him he's the son of the now dead king.
Right.
And a lot of the stuff, I suppose, because that's a bit more well known, a lot of the stuff that has interested me is the stories that just kind of pop out of nowhere that you haven't heard of before. We did this tour of Wales to try and just find out a bit about the Arthurian legend, and people were telling us stories that I had no idea about. They were incredible. There was this one about a giant who had a cape made out of the beards of all the knights that he'd killed, and the one beard he wanted was Arthur's, because he said, when I have Arthur's, I'll finish killing all these knights I've been eating or whatever. And so Arthur rode to the top of this hill, which we drove to. We saw this hill, and they fight, and Arthur chops off his head and rolls it down the hill, and his head has become this other hill that's at the bottom of this huge hill. And I'm not doing the story justice, but I was fascinated by just little tales like that. There's little kind of stories that pop up, because you sort of know this sort of generic kind of almost film version of the tale, but every now and then there's these little kind of tangent stories that you find out about, and like, wow, I didn't know that.
What about the writers themselves? I mean, since you don't have a lot of the actual research, do they kind of say, okay, we're going to take you in this direction, or are they like showrunners on other shows where they try to keep it so quiet and you don't know what you're going toward?
Very much the latter, I'd say. I mean, for me, it's not too bad because, as I say, I'm aware of where my character's going. But with regards to the storylines and how we're going to get there, I have no idea. We're currently filming episodes 7, 8, and 9. I have no idea what happens in 10, 11, 12, and 13 of season 4. I think if there's ever something that's going to happen that we need to know because it's going to affect what we're doing at the time, then they sort of make us aware. But it's very much, they keep stuff under wraps for what we're doing, which can be difficult. It can be tricky to try and match that all up and integrate it all. But
And has there ever been an instant, I've only never asked this to an actor, I'm just kind of curious, is there an instance where by not knowing something and you find out later, you go, damn it,
yeah,
I wish I would have, I should have played episode 2 differently.
All the time. Little bits and pieces just crop up and you go, ooh, which I think for most audience members they wouldn't pick up on, but when you see the show, I know when the costume department see the show, they're watching the costumes. When the sound department are watching the show, they're watching the sound, and I'm watching the show and I'm scrutinising what I'm doing and how I'm telling the story and stuff. So naturally you pick up on the little bits and pieces that you feel you might have missed because certain information wasn't available at certain times. So yeah, that can make it pretty difficult. I don't think it's made a huge difference. I haven't lost any sleep anyway.
It just seems like from the poster and everything that season 4 is a little darker than maybe the other seasons. Is that what you found?
I think they've actually got the word dark on the darkest hour. Is just, I'm gonna give you a little spoiler. That's one of my lines.
Is it?
It is.
The darkest hour?
I won't tell you in what context, but I saw that. I was like, oh yes, I must have performed that one well, which was a bigger surprise for me as it was for anyone else. It's because of the nature of the legends. We're never going to do justice to the full darkness of what they actually are, but we're always going to be pushing the boundaries for that. And I think our audience is, your audience needs that. You need to develop with the show, develop with the characters, because an audience will quite easily switch off. And I think what the creators have managed to do is push those boundaries in the right direction and give that show a new edge that it keeps needing to develop. And our audience is growing older as well. People who are 15 when the show started at 18, 19 now. So it gives you that room to push the boundaries even more.